Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Charlie and I'm the Head of Character Development here at the Warrior Academy. We're super thrilled to have you join us for what promises to be a super enlightening and engaging session today. But before we dive in, I want to take a moment to introduce our guest today, Adam Griffin, who is a renowned expert in disability inclusion, DCD, autism, child and adolescent mental health and attention deficit. With his extensive experience and innovative approach, Adam is uniquely positioned to provide us with some valuable insights into today's webinar. Today, Adam will be discussing how you can reach and teach kids with attention and motor skill difficulties. So without further ado, please let me welcome Adam Griffin.
Hey guys, thank you, Charlie. Always a pleasure, my friend. So I'm delighted. This is a subject that couldn't be more in my wheelhouse. It's one I'm very passionate about. And I've just been lucky to spend the last 13 years working with some amazing parents and families on these very issues. It's an area that a lot of people can feel a little intimidated because it can really affect the child's learning and development. But the benefit is when you learn how to support the child in that area, it can supercharge their learning and development. So I'm very, very happy to be here and talk about this.
Amazing. Thanks so much for joining us, Adam. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. We're all super excited for today's webinar. So let's get straight to it. I'm going to hand the virtual floor over to you. And I hope that everybody enjoys.
So I have a little slides because you don't want to just look at my face and hear me talking. There we are. So I have a little presentation. You might notice this is called All In Inclusive Coaching, and it says Parents Edition. That will be suggesting that there are other editions, which there are. So I do a lot of this work talking to the guys at Warrior Academy. Charlie and the team over there were nice enough to invite me over, and I did something similar to this, which was the Coaches Edition, because my goal is to help parents, help teachers and educators and therapists and coaches understand how they can make an inclusive, supported, and positive learning experience for any child. The things we're talking about today is reaching and teaching kids with attention and motor skills difficulties. I've actually thrown sensory in there as well, because this can be a real significant barrier to their learning and development, and it's something a lot of parents will come to me for. Okay, so I think I control my little slides there. I can. So Charlie gave me a really lovely introduction. That told you a little bit about me, but one of the reasons I love this area so much, we're going to talk a lot about occupations, and your occupations are the things you need and want to do. It's not just your job, but it's that as well. But if you look at myself, for example, so I have this experience of been doing the job a long time. I'm a senior OT, but I'm also the dad of Abby and Mia. I'm a YouTuber, content creator, speaker, do all these radio shows and conferences and things speaking about this subject. But a part of my personality is more than that. I'm also a nerd who loves movies and video games and books. I'm a martial artist and like jujitsu and like training. If I couldn't train, if I'm injured, as Charlie will tell you, if you're injured and can't do this thing you love, it really affects not only your performance and health and fitness, but also your quality of life and your happiness and your psychological well-being. Those are the things I need and want to do. Those are my occupations. But for a child, they have occupations too. So they don't have a job, but they have all the things they need and want to do. If you think about what are the occupations of childhood, and I did a video on this, like a little short clip, where I answered this before, and it kind of went a little viral with OTs, and it's used in OT education a lot now, which makes me really proud. And I said that one of the reasons I love this job is it focuses on the most boring but beautiful everyday things. Your occupations of childhood, can they listen to teacher and make a friend and kick a football and wipe their bum and do their buttons and all these things that are the meat and potatoes of learning and development. That's what childhood is all about. But for some kids, there's going to be a barrier. There's going to be something kind of making life more difficult or getting in the way of these natural age-appropriate occupations that all kids should be able to enjoy. So think about your child. Think about what they need to do: dressing, feeding themselves, getting ready, listening to the teacher, holding a pencil, but also what they want to do. Because everyone focuses on what the teacher and parents care about. Think about what the child cares about too. Those are all the occupations of childhood. Now, if you remember nothing else about this presentation today, you might remember this one, because I sure did the first time I heard it. So neuroplasticity, it's one of the only big words I use, and it's a really important one. It just means how your brain changes and adapts based on experience. Think about this. When your child goes to bed at nighttime, so when my little daughter Mia, when she lays her head down on her pillow after bedtime stories, that brain is different than when she woke up in the morning. Depending on what she did throughout the day, exercising and listening to teacher and doing music and dancing, that makes new adaptations and changes in her brain to almost gobble up, to take in all that experience that you went through and then adapt and grow and learn and develop. So your brain learns and adapts depending on the challenges you give it. So when I heard that first, I was doing a big conference. I was a speaker at a conference, and the main keynote speaker I went to lunch with was one of the foremost pediatric neurology brain development kind of specialists in the world out of Yale. And he shocked me with this one, because that idea of your child's brain being different every night than when they woke up, because I had just had my first daughter at the time, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I have to make sure her day is full of rich learning experiences. It's not a scary thing. It's a really useful thing, because then you can think, okay, we can change every day. I have the opportunity every day to have really great learning experiences, but keep that in mind. I won't go into the importance of physical activity too much, because most people know it. If your child's active, if they're getting to move, if they're getting to use their little growing muscles, it will not only affect their physical health, but also things like their academic performance, how they'll move into teenagerhood and adulthood, enjoying physicality. They'll appreciate all the amazing things their body and their muscles and their physical self is capable of. You're establishing a lifelong love of physical activity and gathering all the benefits that can afford. Okay? Now, one of the reasons I talked about neuroplasticity before, because it's hard to get away from this part of the conversation sometimes, is about screen time. So screen time is an occupation as well. I'm not saying all video games or all screen time is totally awful and you have to cut it out totally, because it's a big part of how kids socialize and interact and enjoy themselves these days. But it does take the place a lot of the time of other age-appropriate developmental experiences. Your brain will adapt to screen time too, but if all of you're doing is screen time, it will adapt to that. Now, if we look at the numbers, it's pretty stark. So if you think of children, the American Academy of Pediatrics is some of the biggest info on this. Kids 8 to 12 averaging 4 to 6 hours a day on combined screens. Teens up to 9 hours a day. That's more than a full-time job of just engaging with the screen, often in just a passive way. You're not demanding much. You're just sitting there kind of sedately staring at the screen. So it is a thing to be aware of, because it comes at a major opportunity cost. That means time spent in screens is time you're not spending moving and making, imagining and creating and engaging with people on a face-to-face basis and having to solve problems and do all the other amazing things that little brains want to do. Every child's a machine made for learning and development. They come out of the box that way, ready to grow. All the hardware is right there. They just need experience. A lot of my work as an OT is kind of encouraging parents to get out of their kids' way sometimes and allow them to get their hands messy and roll their sleeves up and get dirty and explore things. Just literally 10 minutes, I'm in the clinic right now. 10 minutes ago, I was working with a kid trying to repair a PlayStation controller because I dismantled it, and it was his job to put it back together. And he was fascinated by this thing, and he could see the brain working. We don't get that with a lot of screen time. We're not being challenged in the same way. So that neuroplasticity isn't making those new exciting neuronal connections, okay? So if we're thinking about engagement, we're going to talk about reaching and teaching these kids now. If you're trying to develop skills, the two most important things are opportunity to do the thing, to be challenged, and motivation. Do you want to do the thing? So opportunity and motivation are the two most important factors in any sort of developmental experience. Does the young person have lots of opportunity in the weekly routine? It doesn't mean going to therapy for 1 hour. It doesn't mean just having one swimming lesson a week and the rest of the time they're on screens. It's not about what you buy. It's not about who you hire. It's a lifestyle. It's I Part of your family's culture within the home is having opportunity for both and motivation for physicality. In my OT reports, when I work with kids professionally, there's a big paragraph in the bottom. I'll do all my tests. I'll do all my clinical work with the child, but regardless of what I say, it'll have a paragraph at the end saying these things about opportunity and motivation. If the child isn't getting opportunity to move and use their muscles and challenge their brain, no amount of therapeutic intervention to overcome that shortfall in natural, age-appropriate, developmentally rich play experience. Doesn't have to be exciting. You don't have to buy anything. They just need opportunities to do what kids do. Learn, play, grow. But what if they can't? What if something's holding them back? And that's where the main thing we're talking about today. So the three main issues. I said in the title of this about motor skills and attention. I've thrown in sensory because it's something I'm getting much more referrals about these three. And we can kind of think of them together as well, because any one of them can be a really significant barrier to stop that child being successful in the things they need and want to do. Attentional difficulties can really get in the way of their being able to sustain focus on homework, being able to pay attention to teacher. Kids, not only their occupational performance, when I say that, it just means how good they are or how good they feel they are at a thing. So their handwriting or their homework or things like that. So there's the performance, how well they do it, but also have a major impact on their sense of self, about their confidence, about their happiness, about their psychological well-being as well. So it's not just performance, it's how they feel about themselves, man. If everything is a struggle for you and it seems to come easy to all your friends, that is a tough go. That is not easy for a kid. But with the right support, you can overcome these challenges and really see your child thrive in whatever the environment, in the classroom, in the home, in the community, in the sports club, wherever. All right. Now, this is one of my, I have lots of these little Adam the OT taglines. This is one of my favorites. When you're trying to teach anything, you have to reach them first, then teach them. That's why the title of this conversation is Reaching and Teaching Kids. You got to reach them first. A lot of the times I'll go and see clubs or I'll see classrooms where everyone is trying so hard to teach a kid, but no one's reached him yet. The child is not listening. He is not engaged. He doesn't care. He doesn't want to do the thing. You haven't reached him first. You won't be able to teach him second. You need to do the reaching part first. It's so important. And also, it'll avoid a lot of frustration on your part, okay? Now, not the guys in Warrior Academy, I have to say, because I did a talk similar to this with them. So they know the importance of reaching the kids, capturing their emotional investment first. They do that job really well. I love this quotation. Think marshmallows. Learning can only happen when a child is interested. If they're not interested, it's like throwing marshmallows at their head and calling it eating. Look, I'm giving them lots of calories. I'm feeding them. Ponk, ponk, marshmallows bouncing off this child. Marshmallows of knowledge bouncing off their head. You're not feeding him. He's not taking in anything. So anytime you see a child not paying attention, I want you to visualize marshmallows bouncing off their head. So you've got to get that interest first. Reach them first, teach them second. So let's talk sensory. Now, I'm not going to spend too long on each of these little bits. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly because I know we want to have a little bit of kind of a question part as well. But I want to give time to this because this is the practical stuff. This is the real things I want you guys, if you're recording this or taking screenshots or want to go back and study these next few slides, okay? Do that for me. So sensory kids. Each part we're going to have reach them on one side and teach them on the other. I'll go through these not too fast because I want to explain. So for a sensory child, if you know any kids with sensory difficulties, it can massively impact their attention because it's almost imagine their sensory needs like their nutritional needs. If you were starving, if you're really hungry, you're not your best self, like the Snickers ad. You feel hangry, it's a real thing. You get emotional, you can't think clearly, and you're so much better when you have something to eat. If you've ever did fasting or anything, or had even missed a meal, you'll know the impact it can often have. For sensory kids, imagine that times 100. So their hunger for either sensory input they need more of, or their feeling of overwhelm where the sensory world is too much or too chaotic, it can be enormously challenging and greatly impact their learning and engagement, and also have a big impact on their level of like emotional regulation as well. How happy, how content, how grounded, how available for learning they are. So to reach these kids, you need to learn to speak sensory. So understanding their sensory needs. If you have a child who has sensory needs, then knowing their sensory personality. Now, I'm saying that specifically, their sensory personality. Don't think of any of these things like sensory or attention or motor skills. Don't think about diagnosis. Don't think about difficulty. Don't think about specific like clinical terminology. Forget all that. Think about the child you have in front of you. What's holding them back? I say on the title of this, ADHD, ASD, DCD, all these abbreviations. If your child has none of those, I don't mind. If the child has all of those, I still don't mind. It doesn't change the kid I have in front of me and the real world problems that's holding them back every day. So with that said, back in action. So understand their sensory needs. Does this child need opportunities to move more, to fill their sensory cup, to get that hunger satisfied for additional sensory input? If you see a lot of my kids, they'll rock, or they'll bounce, or they'll flap their hands, or they just can never sit still. They're jiggling all the time. That is a kid fizzing with energy who needs an outlet. You won't be able to teach him until you reach him first. So speak sensory, speak their language, create a sensory-friendly environment. Somewhere they have lots of opportunities to do this, or if they're sensitive, somewhere they have opportunities to get away from everything, to get away from the chaos, to have control over the environment. Predictable routines are really helpful. That's true in almost all situations, regardless of the child's needs. But a clear, consistent routine is always a good thing. Life will get in the way. You'll have to change it sometimes. But generally speaking, consistency and predictability and what we call clarity of expectation, knowing what's coming up next, knowing what the right thing is to do, that's important. All right? Incorporate sensory breaks throughout the day and do it before the child really, really needs it. If they're bouncing off the wall or already upset, you've been a little too late there. You can still do it 100%. They still need it, but you can avoid a lot of that dysregulation if you anticipate the child's sensory needs. So starting off the day with a little bit of movement, and after they come back for school, getting those wiggles out, feeling grounded, calm, organized, that can be really helpful. And stay flexible. Recognize that some days will be tricky and some days will be better than others, but it's all a learning process. Okay? Teach them then. So you have a child who feels grounded, who feels organized, who feels ready to learn, calm, and engaged. Now, they're teachable. You're ready to teach them. When you're trying to teach them, go at their pace. So allow extra time. Don't rush. And slow, steady progress is the name of the game. You're not, this whole thing, their whole childhood and developmental journey is a marathon, not a sprint. If you don't get it done today, don't sweat. Get it done tomorrow. It's much better you look after your own emotional and psychological well-being and theirs than you try and just get to the bottom of this worksheet. It's nightmarish. It's a battleground for both of you. Offer choices. Let them choose between options. That this feeling of choice and agency is hugely important. It gives them some feeling of control in a world that can often feel quite chaotic and out of control. Encourage independence. Support them doing things on their own, but offer help when needed and prompt them to look and ask for the help as well. You're there to support. You're not there to wag their finger and make sure they're doing it right. Use positive communication. So speak calmly and encouragingly. Remember, there's a thing called co-regulation. That means they'll learn from you. They'll take their emotional cue from your emotional state. So if you stay calm and regulated, they'll come back down to your level. Even if they're getting a little scattered, you're zen, you're calm, you're there to support. And be patient and observe. This is a learning experience for you just as much as a learning experience for them. You'll get to know each other as you speak this sensory language that they've been speaking for years. It's going to be a really wonderful journey for both of you. And it'll get easier the more you learn it. Motor skills. Interesting. Now, I wonder, can you guys see my head big enough in this? Because I was going to do a demonstration of this, but we'll see if it works out. I might take off my slides in a second, but not just yet. So for motor skills difficulties, one of the most common things I get referred for, probably the most common referral for OT anywhere in the world, is kids with like handwriting difficulties, trouble with pencil grips, they can't do their buttons, they struggle with day-to-day motor skills actions, maybe they drop and spill, they struggle in sports. For a lot of young people, that can really affect their self-esteem and confidence if things that are come easy to their friends are really difficult for them. So you have motor skills kids whose performance is difficult, but then little sidebar, people always talk about kids being mean. Oh, this kids call other kids names. Yep, kids label other kids. They are mean often. That is very true. But kids will label themselves just as fast. Kids will tell themselves, I'm no good at this. I just can't play football, or I can't do writing. They have this, they'll teach themselves and convince themselves, I just can't do it, and have this fixed mindset. And that's not irrational. That's because their experience has told them, I'm no good at this. My friend, he's great at this. It's really hard for me, so I don't want to do it. So that motivation gets really impacted. And that belief in themselves and their confidence and their just feelings of happiness get really impacted because things are harder. So motor skills can not just be about handwriting and pencil grip, but it can be a really important factor. In fact, kids who excel in these motor skills, physical activities, have a huge benefit in terms of academia, but also in psychological well-being and health and fitness and social interactions as well, because it really impacts their confidence and their self-esteem. So reach them first, teach them second. Let's see how. Reach them. So know their motor needs. Watch how they handle tasks. Notice where they need help. Don't jump in and try and do everything. Now, that's a special note to my dads who might be watching, because I'm a hypocrite. I do this too. If I see my daughter struggling, I'll want to jump in straight away. No. If you do that, you're taking away, I was about to say stealing. Yes, I'm going to say stealing. You're stealing the opportunities for learning and development. Neuroplasticity, remember, they need the experience to learn how to do it better. By all means, help them out, but help them just enough so they can do it successfully themselves. Okay? Break down tasks one step at a time, like tying shoelaces or dressing. I was actually, if we have time, do I have time? Maybe I do, to show you an example of how to tie shoelaces. I have a boast that I can teach any kid to tie their shoelaces in one OT session. I've been successful thus far, and I think I can teach your kids too, because I have a trick. Use helpful tools. So totally fine to adapt items. If buttons are really tricky and Velcro is an option, fine, use Velcro, but only if the child wants to. I have a kid who wanted to tie his shoelaces for the first time ever when he was 13 years old. I seen him very recently, and he was totally fine with Velcro shoes before that, but his new Lionel Messi football boots had laces, and he wanted to tie them because Lionel Messi ties his football boots, and he wanted to wear those to practice. Now he cares about it. We reached him, then I can teach him pretty easy. Celebrate when they're great. You want to build that motivation, build that feeling of capability. So I don't care if they're great at football or Fortnite or anything in L, anything where they can show me something they're proud of, they have mastery, and they can do something better than me. Listen to that. If it matters to them, it matters to me, and it should matter to you too. So when you're teaching motor skills, make it fun. Think of the 3 steps in motor performance. I don't want to get into this too much, but people always look at the strength and the dexterity. They look at the last part. In any motor action, there's the idea, the plan, and the doing, the action. Most kids fall down before they get to the action. They don't really know what they have to do, and they certainly don't know how to make their body do that thing. So you have to make the idea and the plan as clear and transparent as easy as possible. Protect that motivation. So focus on, if they struggle, that's fine. Reduce the difficulty, grade it to what we call the just right challenge. So it's just tricky enough that there's a little bit of resistance, but then make sure they can be successful. Offer support to ensure that success. Start with a win, and then you can back off a little bit. It doesn't mean rushing in. It doesn't mean rescuing them and doing it for them. It just means giving them so they can see how to be successful, what winning looks like. And practice makes perfect. Do something that they get lots of repetition to practice this. They get lots of chances to do it again and again. That's why PE is sometimes difficult, because the kid lines up, They get to try, for example, try hit the ball, whatever else, and then they go to the back of the line. So you might only get a couple of times, and there's a big wait between each practice. So you want lots and lots and lots of repetitions, at least 20 times, just to really revise and make that motor plan. Okay, so that's motor skills. I might come back to this one at the end if I have time to show you how to tie shoelaces. Okay. Oh, let me come back to that one. Attentional difficulties. Reaching really quickly. Now, this is actually summarized most of this very briefly, because for attention, I'll go to classrooms and teachers will say, oh, little Johnny, he can't sustain attention. He gets distracted. He can't pay attention over a long period. But I'll watch little Johnny and I'll realize you never had his attention. It was initial engagement. It was the beginning of learning tasks. Because he didn't care about it from the start, you can't make him pay attention after. And for kids with attentional difficulties, what's called ADHD, or the term I prefer is called VAST, variable attention stimulus trait. Google VAST, Google ADHD, VAST. It's very interesting. It just means you're almost pathologically cannot pay attention to something you don't care about. It's really, really difficult. So the way to do it is you find a way to make yourself care about it. You get that emotional investment from the beginning. Start with engagement. Fun first. I'll talk about this in a second. Provide a clear structure. Break activities down to small steps. Use movement breaks. If you're a fidgety, jittery kind of kid who needs to move, have that in there at the beginning, so that by the time you sit down and have to pay attention, you're ready to learn. Leverage strengths, focus on what they're good at and build on those strengths, and create a supportive space. So you want to minimize other distractions. Anything that's going to be make this learning opportunity more challenging, whether it's homework at home, don't do it in an overly busy or distraction-free space. Don't have screens on anywhere in the background. Just remove those difficulties. To reach them, the child is teachable. Now you can teach them. Get their attention from the beginning. Ooh, this is absolutely key. You've gotta, at the beginning of the task, make sure the child knows what winning looks like, knows what they need, what their first step is going to be, and how long they're going to do this for. Once you have those things, if within the first 30 seconds you have the child working towards the goal, they know what winning looks like, and they know what the first step is, it's going to be a winner. I almost guarantee it. But you've got to get that first 30 seconds done as well. So with that regard, give simple, direct instructions. Offer choices if you can, so the child has a little control and ownership of it. Encourage hands-on, dynamic learning, not just the same thing rote again and again. And what's this last one? I can't see the bottom of my own slide. My thing's in the way. Oh, shit, short, achievable goals. So you get a feeling of success and achievement. Now, again, one more slide that if you're going to take a picture or anything, if you want to forget everything else, remember Adam's 3 laws. I've used these for years. I've taught these for years, and they're perhaps, I think, the most valuable thing I've ever said to anyone is Adam's 3 laws of learning. Fun, clear, accessible. If you can make any learning opportunity fun, clear, and accessible, you're going to have a winner. There's a reason fun's on the top. If I can make something fun, if it's challenging, if it's a little scary, if it's new, if the child doesn't think they can do it, if I can get past all of that and just really make it fun and interesting, then I've got they want to do well. They're emotionally invested. We're going to have a good time. Then they need to be clear enough. They understand what's being asked of them. They understand how to win. And then accessible, it's not too difficult. It's at that just right level of challenge. Fun, clear, and accessible. And think of it like that Venn diagram. If there's an activity like putting on your shoelaces, that's not fun. When is it really not fun? When your mom is saying, come on, we're late for the bus. Where's your other shoe? Tie your laces. You're 12 years old. You still can't tie your laces. That's not fun for anyone. It's fun if we do it in a surprising, novel way. My trick, I'll say to the child, you're going to tie your shoelaces in 10 minutes from now and start the clock. And then I'll show them my technique. They say, no, never. I can never do this. I've given up. 10 minutes later, they tied their shoelaces and they're running outside. In the middle of the session, they run out of my session to show their mom they can do it. And now they haven't surprised me. I knew that was going to happen. They surprised mom, but better than that, they surprise themselves. That's fun. Clear and accessible. Fun, clear, accessible. If it's not fun, clear, accessible, you've missed one of those. Maybe the child's a little confused, so that Venn diagram doesn't line up. The green is slid away. make it more clear, make the goal more obvious, have them repeat back to you the instructions and make those instructions really simple, then you're back onto a winner. If something's not working, one of these three things is out of alignment, but that means you can get it back in alignment pretty easily. Remember, if a child can't learn the way you teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. Love that quote. So every child is teachable. I don't believe there's kids that I can't reach and teach in some way, shape, or form, especially if they care about the thing they're trying to learn. That's something that kind of one of my big values, really, and it's something I try and kind of convince everybody. Because a lot of the families I work with, they don't come to see me if life is great. It's been a struggle. They've had a hard time for a long time, maybe academically, maybe they've got in trouble, or they just feel like they're no good at things that are easy for their kids. It's my job to reach them, get them emotionally invested, get them to trust me and build rapport, and then teach them and show them that they can succeed and they can thrive and they can be amazing. And that's it. Thanks, guys. So that's me. You'll see me. You'll find me, Adam the OT, on Instagram, where most people find me. I try and post new activities, new simple learning experiences and ideas for parents and therapists. Most days, if I can, I've got a very full clinical workload as well. But any parent can reach out to me there anytime, and I'll always respond personally. And if I can help you at all, I'd be delighted. And that's it. Thank you, Charlie.
Adam, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure as always, and we really appreciate you sharing your expertise and your experience and for making the webinar such a success today. Before I let you go, we have had just a couple of questions come in, and just to fire them at you and get your opinion on them. So, firstly, what are some of the most effective strategies for helping children with attention difficulties stay engaged in both learning and everyday tasks?
It's that clarity of expectations. So think about the beginnings of things. So if you think of Charlie, if you think about the last movie you saw, you'll remember the beginning of it, and you'll remember probably how that movie ended. If I actually tell me the whole plot, you probably wouldn't remember all the details. It's all the beginnings and the endings of things. For my kids with attentional difficulties, I want them to make sure from the beginning they were off to the races incredibly fast. So I'll tell parents and therapists, when they're teaching something, imagine a stopwatch in your head. As soon as I'll get the kids' attention, I have a 30-second window to get them to understand what's being asked of them, what their first step is going to be, and how long this is going to take. Off you go. So then we had a good, strong start. And then at the end, when we're resolved, we got acknowledgement of that win. Or even if it wasn't successful, we still learn from the experience. So simple, clear instruction, and do it. Have your goal prepared. Don't wait until the child is disengaged. In classes, I'll go into a class and see, and this is no judgment on teachers, because you have a big class, they'll give a learning objective and go around, everyone else is working, but by the time they reach my kid with attentional difficulties, they weren't paying attention. Everyone else has started working and they're already behind. A lot of these kids, they don't intend to, but they always find themselves kind of lagging behind a little bit. And then it's frustrating to it takes a lot of effort to try and catch up. And even if they do, sometimes their best performance is not as good as their friends because they got a head start. So make sure you get off to a good, strong start at the beginning. If it's daily activities like getting dressed and ready in the morning, sometimes that's a big challenge. Outsource those frontal lobes. So thinking you have a visual schedule, you have whatever you need to do to make it fun, clear, pop quiz. Charlie, what was the third part? Fun, clear, and accessible. So fun, clear. So fun, clear, accessible. Doesn't matter if you're a swimming coach, a parent, English teacher, a martial arts coach, anybody. If you're trying to teach anything, fun, clear, accessible. If it doesn't work, one of those is off, but that means you can fix it.
Okay, fantastic. And we got one more question that's coming. I'll fire the last one at you. So in your experience, what role does play-based learning have in supporting children with autism or ADHD in developing both social and motor skills?
Oh, wow, man, what a great question. That's a good one. So that's, well, I'll kind of borrow my man, Mr. Rogers. So Mr. Rogers talked about, he's a great quote, OTs love this quote, and talked about there's a very common misconception that there's play and there's learning. There's work. This is proper work. Get your pens and pencils out. Enough with the play. It's like a distraction from learning. Play isn't the distraction from learning. Play is learning. It's the primary occupation of childhood. Everything I do, I spent this whole day, I see how many, 9 kids today? It's all play. I'm a professional I'm a play partner. That's what I've done for 13 years. And I'm not a great therapist in a lot of ways. I'm a brilliant play partner. And that's why the kids learn quite well. Because what's the difference? Because it's fun, because I make it so unbelievably interesting and engaging, they will give me their absolute best effort. That thing, did you hear me mention the idea about I disassembled a PlayStation controller? Working on a child's motor skill, the same motor skills they need for handwriting and dressing, but I took apart a PlayStation 4 controller, something they were like, wow, I've never seen the inside of these before. It's something they're interested in, but they have to put that back together. It's far too hard for one of these kids, but because they were so interested in it and it was really naturally engaging and exploratory, then they were giving me their best effort. They needed help. They needed to ask me for help, which they did. And they were so proud, and they told their parent when they finished, you wouldn't believe what I just did in OT sessions. And that's all play. And the nice thing about it is there's a term I hate. I hear it sometimes, unfortunately. They'll have one of my ASD kids and they're playing with a toy in an unusual way. And I'll hear someone say, he's playing with that wrong. Never let me hear you say that. So you can't, there's no such thing. It's an oxymoron. You can't play wrong. Is it fun? Is it interesting? Is it engaging? Are you getting some modicum of enjoyment out of it? God bless, you're playing fine for me, man. You can't play wrong. So that's where there's no resistance. It's just kids, it's the primary occupation. Remember neuroplasticity? That's the absolute most beautiful thing to develop and help grow little brains.
Wow, Adam, amazing. Once again, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us today. And I do hope that we get the opportunity to do this again pretty soon.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Charlie. Love this. Love what you guys do in Warrior Academy. Amazing.
Appreciate
Happy
that.
to be part of it.
Take care, my friend. Take care. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
So I hope you all enjoyed the expert webinar today with Adam. Every single week, we'll be hosting an expert webinar just like this one. So make sure that you stay tuned to find out who our guest will be for next week. But for now, I'm going to leave you with a video that gives you more of an insight into our team of experts here at the Warrior Academy.
I'd love to introduce you to our team of experts here at the Warrior Academy.
So I'm a senior pediatric occupational therapist.
I'm a family well-being expert.
I am a certified conscious parenting coach.
I'm a pre- and postnatal exercise specialist.
I work with children and parents in the area of cyberbullying prevention and digital wellness.
I am the co-creator and founder of Junior Gladiator Kidpreneurs. I am a operational coach and therapist.
I am a doctor and an expert in mental health.
First of all, parenting is tough. It's a journey of self-discovery. And as much as we learn about our children, we also learn so much about ourselves going through this process. Ultimately, after working with 50,000 families around the world over the last 15 years, we've come to realize that if we really want to maximize the character development and the transformations that make young people, we need to work with parents as well. We need to provide unparalleled level of support to parents as well as the children. Being a parent myself, I've realized that there are so many times during a parent's journey where a little extra support or some well-timed advice can make a huge difference to our lives and the lives of our children. In the Warrior Academy, we also believe that children copy what we do more than they listen to what we say. So as we take our children on a journey of self-development through martial arts, we want to provide our Warrior Academy parents with the same opportunity to grow and develop, because we know what an impact that will make to the children and to the family unit. Imagine having access to a team of experts to support your parenting journey. A team of the region's leading doctors, psychologists, therapists, best-selling authors, specialists in human psychology, behavioral psychology, special educational needs, ADHD, autism, bullying, cyber safety, family communication, and even addiction and eating disorders, as well as mindfulness and meditation and emotional regulation. So how can you as a parent work with our team of experts? Well, as a Warrior Academy member, you will get access to 3 things from our team of experts. Firstly, every month we'll be hosting a monthly webinar and a Q&A session on a specific topic. So these group webinars are for our Warrior Academy parents so that you can learn from the experts on a specific topic you're most interested in. You can discover more about a topic that you would like to learn about. The next thing you'll have access to is one-on-one referrals. So when you complete the character compass, our team will then get an insight into where we feel you could do with the additional support, if you do indeed need any additional support. We can then provide you with a 30 to 45 minute free consultation with one of our experts at no cost to you. The third thing we can provide you with is emergency support. Should you ever need emergency support with a time-sensitive and highly challenging situation, we will personally reach out to our team of experts to have a group discussion about the challenge you're going through to provide you with immediate assistance. The entire group suddenly springs into action to help you solve the problem you're facing. Now, this could be a serious and dangerous case of bullying. It could be the loss of a loved one or a family disaster. Of course, we hope this never happens, but what we want to do as a member of the Warrior family is provide our Warrior parents with a level of care and support like no other community out there.